Hello dear students and welcome to EduTap. Guys, I hope your preparations are going well. Good evening Sachin. Hello Ankit. So, Ankit, I'll answer your question in the meantime if you're there. Ankit, you do not have to write the title of the essay. For example, if there are 5 choices given to you, and if you've chosen choice number 3, so just write in the dialog box 3, and then from the after giving a space or in the next line, you can start writing your essay. Got it? So you don't have to write the title of the essay. All right, guys. So, guys, if you can hear me, if I'm audible, if I'm visible, just type yes in the chat box. And I hope yesterday's session was helpful to you to understand what's the real way, what's the, the smartest way to write an essay. Good evening, Suman. Thank you, Suraj. So this time in info handout, SEBI has mentioned that we can move to next line only after a full stop. Absolutely. Yes, yes. Yes, you have to put the full stop there, Shivam. All right. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Komal. Hello, Shivam. So guys, today we are going to take up another topic, another aspect, another question for descriptive English part. So let's begin with Pressy writing, guys. So let's straight away jump into the session, and let me tell you the exact meaning of a Pressy. What Pressy really means and how to basically draft a Pressy. So hello everyone. Hello Vijay. Rawat, that would cost you a lot, because please do understand that if you skip essay, if you're not able to write an essay, then you'll only score out of 70. And out of 70, how much you can actually expect? Around 50? That's not a good score. So it's not advisable that you skip your essay here. I'm not sure, Ashni, if the dates will be postponed. I'm not sure about that. Let's see if possible, but I think they're going to take all the precautions. So I don't think so the rates will be postponed. All right. Okay, guys. So let's start with the definition of Pressy, guys. So a Pressy is basically, you should understand the difference. First of all, I'll get to the point where you must understand the difference between a Pressy and a summary. What usually students think about drafting a Pressy is, basically what they think is, after reading one paragraph of the passage, they take out the main point, then they read the second paragraph, then they read the second, then they take out the second point, then they read the third paragraph and take out the important point, and they keep on doing like that until they reach the last paragraph, and at the end they put together all the points. I think that's what you believe a summary or a Pressy is, but that's absolutely incorrect, guys. Yes, you should prepare for burning issues and current affairs, Shri. Leaving the A and the writing essay. Absolutely, that's a grammatical mistake, Ankit. Omitting A and the will be considered grammatical mistakes. So don't do that. So basically, Shanky, don't do that, because that's not a Pressy, that's a summary. So guys, if you are in a habit of doing this, that you read one paragraph and then you take out the important point, then you read the second paragraph and you take out the important point, and then you write down whatever you collected from different paragraphs. That's not a Pressy, guys. Please listen carefully. That's summary, and that's a huge. There's a huge difference between a summary and a Pressy. Right. So let's start and let's understand what a Pressy is. I did provide some sample essays yesterday, Rawat. I think there were 5 or 6 essays in those the PDF that I've provided in the Telegram channel, so you can get it from there. Exactly. So guys, let's understand what a Pressy is. A Pressy, now listen to this and please understand it very carefully. A Pressy is a clear, compact, condensed brief of a passage by exclusion of unimportant text and filtration of key points in the writer's own words. So guys, this is very, very important. So please understand, if we follow the sequence of the passage, if we take out paragraph by paragraph all the important points and then we put it together, that is called a summary, which basically is, this form of summarization is used in offices. If you remember, your superiors give you a 20-page report and he asks you to summarize it. So what you do is you take a highlighter, you keep on reading, and whatever you feel that that's important, you highlight it, right? At the end you collect all the highlighted points and you think that's a Pressy. That's not a Pressy, guys, that's a summary. So please listen carefully. Pressy is a clear, compact, condensed brief. That means it's kind of a short story, like your presentation of your whatever you have understood from the passage in your own words. So guys, basically when you are writing a Pressy, please make sure that the sequence of the paragraphs should not be followed. Please make sure that the sequence of the paragraphs of the passage should not be followed. You should start your Pressy with the central idea, with the main idea, with the central theme of the passage, and then build a story around it. So I'll give you an example. So please listen carefully. Okay, guys, I think all of you have seen the movie, all of you have watched the movie Three Idiots, right? So I'll give you the difference between a summary and a Pressy. So let's say if someone asks me to make a Pressy of that movie, Three Idiots. So if I do this, right, please listen carefully. If I do this, that in the movie there are three friends who meet in college, and one of the friends, one of them is very superstitious, and the other does not really wants to pursue engineering but has been forced into this stream because of the choice of his parents. And the third friend, who is the main hero, he challenges everyone by saying that cramming rules is not important, but gaining knowledge is important. So if I do this, now this is, I'm summarizing the movie. So as the movie progresses, I'm giving you the key points of the movie, right? So if you think this is what you are going to write in a Pressy, that's absolutely wrong. Pressy is basically what you understood after watching everything, after reading the whole passage or after watching the whole movie. One and the same thing. So Pressy of that movie would be something like this. The movie highlights the prevalent problems of specifically Indian education system, where authorities as well as parents push their students to to run after or to chase after marks and a good job, despite considering their choice of interest or their liking or disliking towards that particular field of study. Right, the protagonist of the movie challenges the authorities and proves to everyone that in Indian education system, students are sometimes pushed to the boundaries and they even commit suicide because of certain, because of the rat race that the education system has put the students through. And he proves to everyone in the end that knowledge is more important than your grades or a job that you deserve after your education. So that would be called a Pressy. Getting the difference? So if I'm summarizing as the passage progresses, that is called a summary. So Pressy is not a summary. Pressy is your understanding of the passage, guys. Are you getting me, guys? Do you understand the difference between a Pressy and a summary? So please read the definition again now, considering what I've just told you. A Pressy is a clear, compact, condensed brief of a passage by exclusion of unimportant text and filtration of key points, and in the writer's own words. So I'll tell you the difference, right? But let's read through. Pressy writing is regarded as a very important kind of composition because it develops one capacity to discriminate between the essential and the non-essential. Now, this is the key point here. So you need to understand what is superfluous, what has been written around the point, and what's the main point. So if you understand how to discriminate between them, and to find out which is the important key point here, and if you are able to present it in your own words, you'll be able to draft a very good Pressy, guys. right? So basically, when you are looking to draft a Pressy, there are certain key points that you have to keep in mind. So plan an outline of the original passage or article. So what do you mean by plan or outline? For example, if there are, let's say, 6 paragraphs or 7 paragraphs in the passage, so we need to understand that Pressy can be written only in 1 paragraph. Pressy cannot be written in more than 1 paragraph, guys. Pressy is written in only 1 paragraph with a title on the top, right? So it's basically an abstract of the original passage. It's something like what you have understood after reading the passage, and if you are trying to convey whatever you have understood from the passage to a layman who does not understand the technicalities of the understand the difficult language of the passage, now you are trying to simplify it for him by making a short story. So Pressy should not follow the sequence of the passage. Pressy should begin with the central theme. You have to use information according to your own choice and present it there as if you are trying to present it like a short story, that this is what I've understood from the passage. Got it, guys? Yes, guys. Now coming to your question, Shiva. I know it was buffering, guys. I also saw that. So guys, I don't know, this happens every day. So I hope I'm audible now. Now I'm answering your question, Shiva, if you can hear me. Guys, please do remember, whatever data, facts, or any specific references that have been given in the passage should not be included in your Pressy. So omit every data, fact, statistics, or any specific reference or any particular name given in the Pressy of a person or of any particular, example. Omit that and use the central theme of the passage. Then Charu Singh, I think you need to focus more on your reading habit, because you should have the ability to comprehend what is there that you cannot understand. I mean, it cannot be rocket science, right? It will be a simple passage given on a certain topic. So nothing you may not have heard about. I don't think so that's possible. Yes, Sachin, that's what I told you, that facts and examples should not be included in a Pressy. You should omit any fact or any statistical data or any specific example that is given in the passage. Passage change not allowed. There will only be one passage, Pui Pui. So yes, changing the passage is not. Shiva, let's see how long this class goes. All right, data is, yes, you should not cover, Shiva. You should not use facts or data or any specific reference that is given in the passage. I'm going to show you some sample Pressys today after reading the passage, and what you think you would do, and how to frame a good Pressy and a bad Pressy. We are coming to that, guys. Yes, so I've told you, Karthik, examples, facts should not be included in the Pressy. I know if it looks very important, Shiva, just convert it. For example, if it is given that 47% of the population is dependent on this agriculture sector, right? So you should write that around half, around half of the population or half of the Indian population depends on agriculture. So change it in your words. Don't keep the facts or numbers there, right? Will be able to switch between questions like coming back and changing lines. Yes, Nivedha, that would be allowed. You just move your cursor and click wherever you want to type whatever you want to type. If the passage is about a named person, you cannot get a passage about a named person. What type of questions are you asking? You have to simplify and write it in your own words. Absolutely, Mansi. Not 1/3. You will be given a word limit, either 150 words or 120 words. But word limit will be given to you, and you have to follow the word limit. No, you cannot use any information that is not given in the passage, Rastogi ji. Everything that is only given in the passage can be used to draft your Pressy as well as your reading comprehension answers. So please note it down, guys. You cannot use information or any knowledge that you read outside the passage. Don't add your opinions. Keep it factual. Right. So plan outline of the original passage, keep the abstract of the passage, selection of the most prominent phrases and sentences, and form a chain of facts, connect to make an organic whole. These are key points that you have to remember. But I'm coming to the point where you need to understand the difference between a Pressy and a summary. What to do if you get a defective keyboard? Complain to the invigilator, Shiva. What else could you do? You can't sit idle, right? जोर से चिल्लाने का क्या चिल्लाने का भाई sir, title if not asking question. Yes, if it is not even asking question, Shanki, you still have to provide a title to the Pressy. Even if they have not mentioned in the directions that you have to provide or not, you still have to provide a title to the Pressy, because title Pressy always comes with a title, right? अब shout out loud उसके लिए बोल रहे थे. Have been before, its keyboards are in abysmal condition, Shiva. So as you enter the room, you can, as soon as you enter the hall, you can complain to the invigilator to change your keyboard. So that would save your time. That's Charu, you should not lag so far behind 150. If you have to make a Pressy, I think 150 words is the limit. You should not cross 150 words at any cost. But staying up to 135, 140 is all right. But 100 is too short to be a Pressy. You will not be able to cover everything in your Pressy. So that would also lead to deduction of marks. So my suggestion would be keep it between 135 to 150. Do not exceed 150 and try not to stay behind 135, right? Told you, Mansi, you'll only have to write a 250 words essay, not 400 words. Please listen carefully, Mansi. Got it? Now, usually Pressy is 1/3 the length of the actual passage. Usually that's a rule, Mudasafir, Fazal. But in this paper they usually give you a specific word limit to follow. So hopefully they'll give you a word limit to follow, and even if they haven't, just follow the 1/3 rule or 150 word, whichever is easier, whichever is easier to you. So they will definitely provide you a word limit, and you have to follow to that word limit. No, word limit is always there, Shiva. Don't worry. Yes, word count will be given on the screen. You don't have to count anything. Word counter will be on the screen and you'll be able to see how many words you have already written. So guys, let's look at the difference between a summary and a Pressy. Now, please read carefully and I'll explain to you what's the difference between a summary and a Pressy. Now, a summary restates the author's main ideas. It omits all examples and evidence used to support and illustrate the point of passage. The function of a summary is to represent a large amount of material in a concise form. On the other hand, a Pressy is a concise summary. It should contain only the essential points, statements or facts with the focus on reproducing the logic, organization and emphasis of the original text. So the difference between a summary and a Pressy is summaries to restate the author's main ideas and to concise a lot of information into a short in a concise form. That's a summary. But Pressy is basically a concise summary, but in your own words, in the emphasis of original text. So basically the difference between a summary and a Pressy is Pressy has to be written in your own words, right? I did give some topics for essay yesterday, Pui, so you can check that out and you'll find that. So guys, key point of a Pressy, and then we'll start with the some sample Pressys. So Pressy is crux or gist of the passage. Guys, to make the title, many students feel, sir, what should be the title? So keep it short. Do not make it one sentence long. Keep it short, 4 to 5 words. For example, revamping economy, challenges and obstacles. So keep it short and catchy. So the crux of the passage, the central theme of the passage should be the title. Now, do remember to avoid replication of important sentences. Do not repeat something. Once you've mentioned something, do not use it in another sentence. Have brevity and clarity. avoid direct speech and use indirect speech. Now, what does I mean, or what does it mean to be using indirect speech? For example, if it is given the government has decided to infuse money into the rural sector, so you should use indirect speech. That in a in a opposite way of speaking, as we call passive way of speaking, right? That rural economy has been decided to be invested upon or to be supported by the government, or the rural sector is to be financially supported by the government. So use indirect way of writing sentences so that it looks that you have used your own way of presentation. Now guys, do observe the proportion, right? Do observe the proportion, because if you write too much about something, then you'll not have enough sentences to to mention about other things. So please do observe proportion of your Pressy, and it should be basically 1/3 of the original passage. That's a usual rule, but there will be word limit given to you, which usually is 150 words, but they may surprise you this time. So you can expect 120, or you can expect maybe 130, or maybe 170. So be ready for any surprises. So you have to work accordingly, but usually it is 150 words. What extent should we use of examples? No example should be used, Vishweshwar. And yes, it is it is recommended to use punchy words, so that read titles in your newspaper, so that you can use such kind of titles for your Pressy. So let's start with some do's and don'ts. So guys, please remember these. Start the Pressy with the main idea. Please do remember this. The first sentence of the Pressy should be the main idea. So start the Pressy with the main idea so that the reader can quickly understand the essence of the Pressy. So guys, if your aim should be to present the passage in such a way that if the reader only reads your Pressy and he does not even look at the passage, he still should be able to get the main idea, this the whole, what the whole passage is about. That is your aim of writing a Pressy. So start the Pressy with the main idea so that the reader quickly understands the essence of the Pressy. While writing a Pressy, make a suitable environment where all the points can be described and discussed equally. Now that's observing proportion, as I told you. As a Pressy is concise, compress it by using connecting words. Guys, do not forget to use conjunctions. So if there are certain measures given in the passage, so you can connect all the measures in one sentence. That these or the following measures have been undertaken by the government of improving, such as improving this, then comma, doing this, then comma, doing that. So do make sure to make sure to use conjunctions or connecting words to make your to make more space to add more information into your Pressy, right? No, you should not mention any report or any specific example from the passage, Bhavna. It's summary exactly, Shiva. If you have to put it this way, we have to narrate to core passage in short. Absolutely, Pui. Very good. Yes, I'm going to give examples now, Shiva. Just wait for a second. Let me read it out. So do make sure that you use conjunctions, and make sure that space is available to retain important data and keywords in the concept. Now, removing the irrelevant data or sentences as important as writing the relevant points. So that's a valid point, that removing irrelevant data is as important as writing the relevant points. So identify the superfluous data, whatever has been repeatedly said, and facts, and keep the core idea of the work only in the Pressy. So please do remember that remove any superfluous data or facts and keep the core idea of the passage. Do not form personal opinions, remarks and criticism in a Pressy. Please make sure you do not add any your own opinion into a Pressy. It should be only the rephrasing, rephrasing of the original passage. No opinions or remarks or criticisms should be added from your own opinion. Always take the fact and data that is given in the paragraph only, right? Do not reuse text from the passage, guys. Do not copy paste anything from the passage. That will lead to deduction of marks. So it should be in your own words, and use synonyms to present the sentence in your own words. Got it, guys? So it will be same, Shiv Charan. So I think it will be the same passage for Pressy and same passage for reading comprehension. You have to include title by default, Pui, right? You should not mention any report, any or anything, right? So whatever you have understood from the passage bhavna, that has to be presented in a Pressy. So now let's start with some simple Pressy, guys. So let's say this was the passage given to you, and we'll try to make a Pressy, and I'll tell you how to omit, how to omit facts and data from the passage and how to keep the core. So guys, please, let's stop with the questions now. Let's understand how to draft a Pressy, and then rest of the questions, whatever is not clear to you, I'll take it at the end of the session. It should be in one paragraph, Rahul. Pressy is written in only one paragraph with only title on the top. It cannot be written in more than one paragraph or bullet points or numbers. If Pressy don't understand, then in the worst case scenario, Mansi, then make a summary. The worst case scenario, if you do not understand the passage thoroughly, worst case scenario, then make a summary. The best way out. At least you will score something. So guys, no more questions now. Right? So let's read the passage and let's try to make a Pressy. Right? I'll read it out for you. Financial inclusion is not just about access to financial products, both savings and borrowings. It is also about safe, easy, and low-cost access to cash flow management system, and that includes a payment system that allows you to move your money around safely and at a low cost. Financial inclusion has been an important development agenda for India. So financial inclusion has been an important development agenda for India. Though financial inclusion is necessary, it is definitely not a sufficient condition for economic growth. The current decades is the watershed period for financial inclusion in India, as it marks a paradigm shift in the approaches of the banks and financial institutions, thanks to the regulatory push and the demand pull. Right. So this is the, I think, quite important aspect of this passage. Currently, India's banking network comprises of 1.15 lakh branches and an ATM network of 1.6 lakh. Right. Now, out of these, 44,000 branches, that is 38.2%, and 23,000 ATMs, that is 14.58%, are in rural areas, and the remaining in semi-urban and metropolitan areas. That means urban areas have 62% of the branches and 75% of the ATM outlets in the country. Right? That's to be understood from this fact. Right? The number of banking outlets in villages, which was 67,694 during 2009-10, crossed 3.8 lakh in March 2014. Nearly 12,748 rural branches were opened during 2010 to 2014, against a reduction of about 1,300 rural branches in the last 2 decades. Right? You should only read it once, Charu, if you understand it thoroughly, if you have a good reading ability. Now, let's read ahead. Despite the formidable physical outreach and the rural footprint of banks, 44% Indians lack access to savings account. Obviously, there have been some major challenges in achieving financial inclusion in rural areas in this large country. Underdeveloped infrastructure makes it hard for the banks to operate in many rural areas. Opportunity cost for a rural customer braving a long trek to the branch over bad roads remains a major deterrent to opening a bank account. Illiteracy and language differences act as barriers, as does banks' failure to offer products relevant to rural customers. For banks, a host of problems such as small transaction size, higher credit risk make it even more difficult to serve the rural market. Now, despite such challenges, rural banking is far ahead of where it was in the first decade of this century. The RBI has encouraged expansion in rural areas through its financial inclusion plan, and by granting, RBI has encouraged expansion in rural areas through its financial inclusion plan and by granting urban branch licenses on the basis of number of rural branch opened. Right. So that's the push given by RBI. Okay, let's read ahead. The success of financial inclusion depends largely on developing products, solutions that directly address those specific needs. So the success of financial inclusion depends largely on products and solutions that directly address those specific needs. The financially excluded consumers have certain unique characteristics, such as low financial literacy, low and cyclic income, minimum collateral, lack of credit history, absence of formal and verifiable identity, illiteracy. These need to be taken care of while designing products and services for them. Hence, the products and services to be offered should not be stripped down versions of products and services originally created for more affluent consumer segments, and should instead holistically address the expectations of the financially excluded customers. Right, guys? So, guys, after reading the passage, what do you think should be the title of the passage? And then I'll give you a good Pressy for it. But let's brainstorm. So Shiva has said theme should be financial inclusion. That's true, but what should be the title of the Pressy? Should be relevant to the passage. Financial inclusion, hurdles and way forward. Yes, that's a valid one, Piyush. Or financial inclusion, a change in scenario. Oh, okay. First one was better, I think. Yes, guys, do try to make a title for this passage, and then I'll give you a good Pressy for it. Guys, would you like to try? Yes, guys, would you like to give your input? What should be the title of the Pressy after reading this passage? Journey of financial inclusion. Okay, okay. I think revamping financial inclusion. How does that sound? Financial inclusion, the road ahead. Very good, Pui Pui. Very well sought. A path towards rural prosperity. Very good, Gaurav ji. Very well sought. Financial inclusion, benefits and perils. Very good, Vishweshwar. Financial inclusion in 21st century. Very subtle, Vishal. Financial inclusion, way to rural banking. Very good, Sonali. Very well sought. Financial inclusion, it's that's very simple, Suman. Challenges of financial inclusion in rural India. Very good, Shiv Charan. Yes, guys. What else? Financial inclusion, last mile challenges. Very good, Suraj. Financial inclusion, make more accessible. Don't give your opinion, Shiva. That's what I told you. Don't put your opinion into there. You don't have to make anything. You have to write on the basis of the information of the passage. Make sure that you follow that. New India financial inclusion. Okay, Vishweshwar. Let's see. Significance of financial inclusion. Okay, Shanki. Not bad. Financial inclusion challenges in the way ahead. Right. Steps towards developing country. Mansi, that's too vague. That was nowhere related to what we read in the passage. All right, guys. Very well tried. Let's look at some Pressy to see if we can find a good one or a bad one. Let's see the difference between a bad Pressy and a good Pressy. Right. RBI's initiative was not the central theme, Faizan. It was not only about RBI. The central theme was pushing financial inclusion into the country, right? Pushing. So I would say pushing financial inclusion into India. Financial inclusion, a roadmap for better India. Very good, Vivek. RBI's initiative in financial inclusion, very good. A change maker. Dasir, what does that mean? A change maker. Okay, guys, let's look at some bad Pressys and good Pressy. So this is an example of a bad Pressy, guys. Let's read it. First of all, the student forgot to put a title. That would lead to at least deduction of 3 to 4 marks, guys. Do remember to make an apt title for the Pressy. Now, let's read it. Financial inclusion is not all about to access. Now, grammatical mistake, don't make that. To access saving and borrowing. Financial inclusion is not about access saving and borrowing. I think he's exactly tried to make a summary. Start from the first paragraph, exactly copy whatever the important idea of the first paragraph, then put it there at the beginning. So this is what we call a bad Pressy. It also includes easy, safe, low cost access to financial products and depends on payment system. Exactly the language of the passage. And then changing of paragraphs. That's absolutely wrong. Pressy is written in only one paragraph. Please do remember this, guys. Let's read ahead. Financial inclusion is a necessary element for development for India. The current decade, India has made a paradigm shift in approach of banks and financial inclusions due to regulatory push and demand pull. 38.2% bank branches and 14.58 ATMs are operating in rural India, that of total. Despite huge banking infrastructure, 44% of Indians lack access to saving account due to bad road connectivity. Exactly what summarization looks like. Due to higher credit risk, smaller transaction illiteracy and language differences make difficult for bank to operate. RBI encourages expanding in rural area by granting urban branch license based on number of rural branches. Again, mistakes. The success financial inclusion depends. Again, a mistake. Depends on on financial product that is suitable for rural people. It should not be striped down that suitable for affluent people. Do you think, guys, it looks like a good summary to you? Oh, sorry, good Pressy to you. Now this type of Pressy would only probably get 7 or 8 marks out of 30. So many mistakes, no structure followed, no title there, looking like a summary. That's too bad. So don't do that, guys. Got it? Let's look at another bad Pressy, guys. This chap wrote this, such a big title: Financial Inclusion as a Mechanism for Development of Banking Sector in Rural Areas and Awareness to Rural Customers. He has tried to put everything into this title. Do not do that, guys. Keep your title short and concise. 4 to 5 words more than enough. So don't write a whole sentence to make a title. Then he again the same mistake, changing of paragraphs. That's absolutely wrong. Got it? Now let's read what the student has written. Financial inclusion is a payment system that allows you to move money around safe and at low cost. As an important development agenda, financial inclusion has a paradigm shift into the approach of bank and financial institution. That's absolutely dumb, yeah. He's trying to connect sentences which do not even make sense. Currently, 44,000 banking branches and 23,000 ATMs are in rural area out of 1.5 lakh branches and 1.6 lakh ATM respectively, and rest are in semi-urban metropolitan areas. Also increasing banking outlet in village from 69,000 to 3.8 lakh between this, and rural branches opened 1,300 in last 2 decades to 12,000 during this. Despite the physical outreach and rural footprint of banks, still 44% Indians lack access to copying sentences from the passage. You can see it clearly. To a saving account because of some major challenges, like underdeveloped infrastructure, bad roads, etc., and also illiteracy in language difference fails to offer product relevant to rural customers. In spite of this problem, RBI has initiating to expansion of branches in rural areas through financial inclusion plans and granting licenses. The success of financial inclusion depends on how they take care of, I don't know what he missed out, while designing product and services for the financially excluded customers. This is exactly what we call a summary, guys. This is not a Pressy. Please do understand that. Writing figures is wrong. That's what I'm saying. So guys, please do not make these mistakes while you draft your Pressy in your paper. Let me give you a decent example of a Pressy for this passage. Let's look at this one, guys. Now read it carefully so that you remember what you have to do. So give it an apt and relevant title: Financial Inclusion and Its Challenges. So that was the title, and let's read what the student has written in his own understanding. Though financial inclusion is necessary for not just savings and borrowings, it also helps in low cost cash flow management. Yet it's not sufficient for economic growth. I think that's where he has, he started following the sequence of the passage. Despite the current decade being a paradigm in shift for financial inclusion, where nearly 1/3 of the bank branches and 1/6 of the ATMs established in rural areas. This is how you use data. If you find it very, very important too, guys. Somebody was asking me, sir, how to omit if you find something some data very important. See, so this is how you use your data. Convert it into your language, 1/3 and 1/6, so that it doesn't look like that you have copied from the passage. And 1/6 of the ATMs established in rural areas, nearly half of the Indians still lack access to a savings account. Various costs such as transportation and poor infrastructure is deterring the rural customer to open a bank account. Lack of relevant products, high credit risk, illiteracy and language are also acting as barriers for banks and customers. Despite the challenges, RBI, through its financial inclusion plan, made the rural banking network expansion possible. The success of inclusion depends upon an outright new approach to address the specific needs of the financially excluded section of the society and not the stripped down versions of the existing products. So this is where somewhere I felt that there was some repetition, but the guy did his best. I mean, it was a decent Pressy, right? I mean, it followed the sequence of the passage. That's what I felt. There were, some improvements as well, that he made some additions, some changing of language that he has shown, but still I feel it could have been further improved. Yes, guys, how did you find this Pressy? Do share it with me. This type of a Pressy would score around 16 or 17 in actual paper, 17 out of 30. Now, we are not aiming for 17, guys, we are aiming for the highest score possible, right? So, you can see the difference between a summary and a Pressy now. You should not quote any statements, any facts, any data, any specific example from the passage. It should be in your own words. Got it, Fazan? Now, guys, let's try some more. Let's look at some another Pressy by another candidate, and let's see how how this looks. Financial inclusion in India post to 2010. All right, he gave it a very different approach. Let's look at this, guys. Yes, only 16, 17. Yes, Shiva. We're talking about actual evaluation. Let's look at this one, guys. Financial inclusion implies access to safe, low-cost cash flow system. Though it is a significant growth program and is deemed a necessary condition, it alone cannot be enough for economic development. Post 2010, financial inclusion has resulted in a drastic change in approach by banks and financial institutions, catalyzed by regulatory push and a demand pull. Consequently, the banking network has risen rapidly during this period. However, a little less than half of Indians are yet to own bank accounts, owing to nascent infrastructure, illiteracy, language barriers, and irrelevant banking products. Supply side issues include small transaction size and high credit risks. In spite of this, rural banking has managed to flourish, aided by the RBI through its financial inclusion plan and the rural reach incentives. This success depends mainly on customization of bank products and services according to the unique demographics of the financially excluded while inclusively catering to expectations. Now that is what I call a good Pressy, guys. The only improvement that I could add into this Pressy was changing the first sentence. First sentence of the Pressy should be the central theme of the passage. So I would start my Pressy with, the long-awaited financial inclusion. The dependence of long-awaited financial inclusion depends on the insight or the needs of the rural economy of the country at the moment. So post 2010, then I would switch around the sequence, and then I would make a story in my own version of the passage. Please provide course for 2022. Varnika, let us deal with the paper at hand, and then we'll launch the next course. But if you have any doubts or if you have any queries, you can contact us on our email ID, through our email ID, or you can also call us. Right? Flow is similar. That's what I felt, Pui. But it was written very well here. It was very well thought of. The only improvement, I would score this Pressy 21 or 22 out of 30. But, to go up to 24 or 25, what still could have been done is to switch the sequence. That could have been done in this Pressy. So if he had started with the central theme of the passage and then made his way around, now that would have looked, far better than this. But still, it was not a bad Pressy. I would give it 21 or 22 out of 30. Yes, it will be uploaded, Asmita. What are you talking about? Yeah, PDF will be uploaded. Yes, PDF will be there in the Telegram channel, Asmita. So guys, now let's try to make a Pressy on our own. Let's see how well we frame a Pressy. right? Let's look at some live examples, and you can try to solve it with me, and then I'll give you the sample answers as well. All right, guys. You should not follow the sequence of the passage. You should not, and Naveen, I would say you must not follow the sequence of the passage. Otherwise, somewhere it tends to look like a summary, right? So, guys, let's read the passage. It is estimated that about half of the Indian population has been living below poverty line. However, official figures show that poverty in India has declined from 36% in 1984-85 to 29.9% during 1987-88. These figures cannot be relied upon because they are prepared on the dictate of the political bosses. All right. For example, till March 1997, it was estimated that 18.1% of the people in India were living below poverty line against 29.9% during 1987-88. Then this figure was doubled to 39.5% at the full meeting of the Planning Commission held on 10 March 1997 and presided over by the Prime Minister to suit and serve the ends of political leaders and masters. Basically, the official figures cannot be relied upon. More than half of the population has been living below poverty line. Now, next paragraph. Poverty cannot be defined exactly and in absolute terms. It may differ from country to country and even from one province to another in the same country. Similarly, a rural poor and an urban poor cannot be measured with the same yardstick because the cost of living in respect of these two are different. They are victims of hunger, starvation, ill health and malnutrition because their means of subsistence are abysmally low and negligible. They have been living in famine with no money to buy food. Political freedom and independence is meaningless unless people are free from hunger and abject poverty. These people just exist and life has no joy nor significance for them. The rural poor spend over 75% of their meager income on food. Spend over 75% meager income on the food. In urban areas too, the very poor spend almost the same percentage of their wages on food items. Then there is hardly anything left for clothing, housing, education or health. These people have been victims of endemic hunger, poverty, destitution. Even the food grains sold through the network of ration and fair price shops at subsidized rates have been beyond their purchasing power. The imbalance between the population and food production is hardly keeping pace with the rapidly increasing number of mouths in the country. According to a report, India is one of the 3 countries where 50% of world's malnourished children are found. And that's an abstract. That's a dire number for our country to be in. But let's read ahead, guys. There has been green revolution and food grains production has definitely increased, but this has been in respect of fine and superior food grains like wheat and rice only. Okay. So green revolution and food grains have increased, but only to specific crops. The marginal farmers have been further marginalized, and it is the rich peasants and farmers who have benefited the most from this agricultural revolution. There has been improvement in the quality of life and living standards of the upper middle class, but as far as poor classes are concerned, they have just been struggling to make the ends meet. Poverty is not a sin, but is definitely a curse, which in turn generates such social evils and crimes such as theft. So, poverty is not a sin, but definitely a curse, which in turn generates social evils and crimes such as theft, dacoity, kidnapping, murder, drug trafficking, violence, prostitution, extremism, and terrorism, etc. A poor person driven to extreme and desperation can stoop too low to commit any crime. Poor and unemployed young men in Jammu and Kashmir easily become an unwilling instrument of foreign-sponsored terrorism. Insurgency and terrorism in our northeastern states are directly linked with poverty, unemployment and industrial backwardness prevailing there. The poor masses there feel alienated, isolated and discriminated against and easily become tools in the hands of warlords and terrorists. Naxalite and People's War Ground movements thrive well in the regions where there is extreme poverty, illiteracy and economic backwardness. Many a time extreme poverty pushes the people to suicide. So this is the the evil scenario of poverty. Next, guys, with the political leaders, poverty alleviation has been a mere vote catching slogan. In spite of the 70 years of independence and political freedom, the masses in India are living below poverty line. They're not only poor but also illiterate, hungry. Hungry person is the most frustrated person. For him, morality, conscience, social order, religion, patriotism have no value, and even availability of employment, land, Water, food, grains is further shrinking in the country. The natural resources are already under pressure, resulting in adverse environmental consequences. Right? It was a big one because it was not too factual, but they may give you a big passage, so we should be ready for such passages. Now, India is a welfare state, and it is the duty of the government to see that all citizens lead a good, meaningful, satisfying, and qualitative life. Some of the directive principles, like the right to adequate means to livelihood, right to work, and protection against unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement, and free and universal education up to age of 14, should now become part of our fundamental rights and therefore justiciable. The concentration of wealth in the hands of few should be prevented, and there should be fair distribution of national wealth among its citizens. Yes, you should start with the central theme of the passage and then continue further, Naveen. Yes, Gaurav, even if it is not asked, you have to give a title to the Pressy. Pressy always comes with a title. Vishal, you have to practice it a lot, buddy. Read editorials every day and start and make Precis. 1, 2, 3 Precis every day. That's how you will get to the right way to get it done within 15-20 minutes. So type down your Precis every day. Practice it a lot, buddy. Right? Yes, guys. So give me a title of this passage and then I'll give you a sample Precis for this. To bring down such a long passage into 150 or 170 words, what would it take and what to include, what not to include? Yes, give one line gap, Gokul, after title. Give one line gap and then start. Poverty, reasons, consequences, and solution. Okay. Understanding poverty, a Herculean task. Very good, Bisweshwar. Very well sought. Poverty and its evil impacts. Very good, Shanki. Poverty, problem that need to be tackled. You could have just shortened it down, Shruti. Poverty and untackled problem. Right? So you don't need to write complete sentence. Keep it short. Poverty, the war to be fought. Okay. Fought ki spelling galat hai, pui pui. Poverty, root of every problem. Okay, Charu. That's too vague for this passage. Poverty and its consequences to society. All right, Naveen. Poverty and unending problem. Very good, Shiva. Title, a vicious trap of poverty. Very good, Gaurav. Very well sought. Poverty, disgrace to humanity. Okay, Jalpin. Poverty and its tryst with India. Very good, Abhishek. Very well thought. India's biggest challenge, poverty. Okay, Sonali. Poverty more than a political phenomenon. Very good, Saloni. The reality of poverty. Poverty a challenge. Very good, Vishal. Very well done, guys. Very well sought. Poverty, disgrace to humanity. Very good, Jalpin. Yes. आरसी बता दीजिए कितने वर्ड्स में लिखने होंगे. कल बताऊंगा अनुराधा. Tomorrow we have a session for RC at 9 p.m. So you can join in tomorrow and then I'll answer all the questions based on your RC. Poverty scenario in India. Mansi, be a bit more specific. Vishweshwar was best. I think Rastogi ji's was also very good. So I think Rastogi ji's I found Rastogi ji's very compelling. Right, a menace to tackle. Very good, Asmita. Very well sought. Guys, let's look at a Pressy. Simple Pressy for this passage. Let's read it, guys. Poverty, reality of India. That's the title the student gave it. So let's see what he has written. Poverty in India has been on increase or has been on rise. Hona chahiye tha, not increase. I think yahan pe rise would have been a better word. Poverty in India has been on rise, especially in the villages and countryside. In spite of 70 years of independence, there is no perceptible improvement in the quality of life and living standards. Millions and millions suffer from starvation and malnutrition. Official figures about people living below poverty line are not reliable as they are often manipulated, guys. See, this was the point that was mentioned in the first paragraph, but he did not take it up in the sequence of the paragraph. He started with the central theme of the passage. So that's what we call a good Pressy. Got it? So reading ahead, an objective and rational solution to this respect is the need of the hour. Political independence is meaningless without freedom from hunger. Rapidly increasing population has aggravated the situation. Indians remain one of the top countries where children are malnourished and ill-fed. The Green Revolution has benefited only the rich farmers and affluent people in the society. The poor have been further marginalized here too. Poverty is a curse and root cause of many evils and crimes. Poverty alleviation has been a mere vote luring agenda with the political leaders. Poverty amidst plenty is the main problem. A proper balance should be maintained between industrial and agricultural growth and expansion. Many of the directive principles enshrined in our constitution need to be made fundamental rights, and fair distribution of national wealth among its citizens is another factor that should be taken care of. So, this is what we call a good Pressy, guys. That's quite far, Ankush. Poverty, it's reality. Something right, like very good, Deepak. Yes, you should take, something from every paragraph, but if a paragraph is not important, or if you feel that that this is all this information is redundant or superfluous, you can omit one paragraph. That's your choice, Shiva. So you don't need to take essence from every paragraph. You need to only find the important points from every paragraph and then make your own version of the passage, as if you are trying to convey whatever was told in the passage to a layman. Have you understood this now, guys? Got it, guys? So how was this, Pressy? And we should avoid mistakes, guys, because every grammatical mistake will cost you half a mark. So please do remember this, guys. Okay. All right, guys. I think now you see the way students prepare their Pressy. Absolutely sui, not soul, SOLE, SOUL. वो वाला सोल निकालना है, जूते वाला सोल नहीं निकालना पुई पुई. ठीक है. A hurdle to national wealth. All right. But I think it was more about poverty and its issues, right? All right, guys. All right. Are you ready to try another passage? Let's read it. And let's try to make a Pressy out of it. I'll come to that. Okay. I'll give you. Okay. Let's stop. Okay. I'll give this passage. This is a big one for your homework in the PDF. Okay, let's discuss this passage. This is a lot more factual, and this I'll show you how to make a Pressy for this. Very well, Saloni. That's a good idea that you just struck me that, okay, let's try a factual one. So, all right, guys, let's read this passage, which is a lot more factual. And if you are given a factual passage, how to make a Pressy for that. Okay. Absolutely. So let's go, guys. So let's read the passage. The Union budget has introduced various reforms to boost economic growth and put India back on track to become a 5 trillion economy. While the budget may not have been a big bang announcement, it has significantly stepped up expenditure for the next financial year to 30.42 trillion from the revised estimate of 26.98 trillion in the current fiscal. It is thus evident that the government will aim to spend aggressively in the new fiscal and put money in the hands of citizens through its various programs, including lowering of personal income tax to boost demand. At the same time, the government is creating room for reviving private sector investment by rolling out the national infrastructure pipeline that envisages creation of 6,500 infrastructure projects worth 103 lakh crore over the next 5 years. A rapid implementation of these projects that are backed by efficient financing mechanism holds the key to revitalizing the growth engine and propelling GDP towards 5 trillion mark. The bevy of projects promises to transform the hinterland and build a robust infrastructure across sectors like housing, safe drinking water, clean and affordable energy, healthcare, world-class educational institutes, modern railway stations, airports, bus terminals, metro and railway transportation, logistics and warehousing, irrigation projects, etc. The proposal to grant 100% tax exemption to sovereign wealth funds on their investments in infrastructure is expected to bring copious and long-term funds into the sector. Similarly, abolition of dividend distribution tax will encourage foreign companies to also step up investments in these projects, right? The idea to develop 5 new smart cities with states under PPP, public-private partnership model, is also a step in the right direction, as it will have the potential to harness the convergence of 3 different economic activities of upcoming economic corridors, manufacturing activities in those regions, and new age technologies and demands of aspirational classes. Backed by a dynamic workforce, India is at the cusp of a major economic transformation, and a flurry of projects are critical to not only provide gainful employment but also fulfill aspirations of a young society that wants better standards of living with access to health, education, clean energy, water, and better jobs. It is here the budget has rightly laid stress on the need for a robust education system for creating next generation talent pool and enhancing skill sets with greater inflow of finance to attract talented teachers, innovate and build better labs. Various innovative ideas like improving employability of students in general stream, providing internship to newly graduated engineers in local urban bodies, and attaching a medical college to an existing district hospital in PPP mod are noteworthy. The budget has provided 22,000 crore for power and renewable sector. Interestingly, there is mega push to boost generation of solar power. Schemes like helping 20 lakh farmers set up standalone solar pumps and enabling them to set up solar power generation capacity on their barren land and sell it to the grid will give a fillip to the renewable energy in the country. Similarly, the plan to set up large solar power capacity alongside the rail tracks on railway land is also a laudable move. Along with several large renewable energy projects, including solar parks, such small ticket projects by farmers will allow India's rapid transition to an era of sustainable and clean power generation and bring down our dependence on coal based power generation. Right, guys? Next, guys, given that a number of our cities are battling polluted air, it is heartening to note that the budget also talks about the need to shut down thermal power plants that are old with high carbon emission levels. The land vacated by such power projects can in fact be used to set up wind or solar energy farms. The budget has allocated rupees 44,000 crore to encourage states to implement plans for ensuring cleaner air in cities. While the budget did not announce any major steps to address the financial woes of the distressed power distribution utilities or distribution companies, DISCOMs, it set the ball rolling with the proposal to promote smart metering. If states and union territories replace conventional energy meters by prepaid smart meters in the next 3 years, it will significantly ease the financial burden of DISCOMs and cut their losses. At the same time, it would give consumers the freedom to choose the supplier and price of electricity. To sum it up, the budget has the right intent in several areas. It is now over to quick and seamless implementation to unleash the animal spirits in the economy. Yes, guys. So Piyush has come up with the title Union Budget, an Optimistic Approach to Future. Okay. Yes, that's quite relevant, Piyush. A move to boost economy, Shiva. Very good. A move to boost economy. Very well sought. Yes, guys. What do you think should be, an apt title for this for this passage? Union Budget aiming economic growth. Very good, Shruti. That's better than last time. Vishal, a budget for long run. A bit vague, Vishal. Could have been a bit more specific. Yes, guys. What title would you provide to this passage if you had to? Budget 2021, a promising model to reinforce economy. Asmita, where was it mentioned that this budget was for 2021? Actually, this was the budget which was for 2020. So don't add anything that you are not sure of, Asmita. Now that's going to be problematic. Rest was fine. Rest was good. Key to India's progress. Budget planning. Very good, Gokul. Union budget, just numbers or growth of future. All right, Mansi. Skeptical. Union budget, vision of future. All right, Deepak. Well said. Union budget towards reforms. Very good, Bhavna. Budget 2021. It was not 2021. Pui Pui. Again, same mistake. No, it was nowhere mentioned that this budget was for year 2021. Right? So don't add information. This was for year 2020 actually. Union budget reviving India. Very good budget. Paving way for new India. Very good, Sonali. Very good, Charu. Very good, Suraj. But union budget major takeaways. Very good. Budgeting the pollution. Wow. Vitara, don't focus everything on one point. Just take the holistic approach to find out the title. Right. So it was not just about the pollution. Progressive budget for new challenges. Very good, Shivacharan. A move to take economy back on track. A move to boost economy, which is better. A move to boost economy is better, Shiva. Vision for a $5 trillion economy. Very good, Pranay. aim all around sustainable growth. So union budget, sustainable growth, that would have been enough, Piyush. Stirring up Indian economy, okay, Gaurav. Geared up for revolutionary economic growth. All right, union budget के तो mention करो शंकी, वही तो था. It's a bit longer. It's a bit long. So guys, let's look at a decent Pressy for the passage and what you were thinking and what you have to write, guys. So guys, look at this Pressy. Union budget, the roadmap to 5 trillion economy, roadmap to 5 trillion. So let's read it. Let's see what needed to be done here. The budget highlights the will of the government to achieve a 5 trillion economy. Now guys, you could not have changed this fact. So this 5 trillion economy, I know this cannot be avoided, so it's okay to use that. But he started with the central theme of the passage. Look at this, guys. The budget highlights the will of the government to achieve a 5 trillion economy by catering to various sectors of the economy. That was the central theme of the passage. For increasing liquidity in the market, the government aims to increase its public spending from the earlier. This could have been omitted. This is where he went wrong. No, increase its public spending from earlier, that was enough. So you no need to mention this fact here. Up till here, this would have been enough. The government aims to increase its public spending from earlier by introducing national infrastructure pipeline worth. Now this was not required again. So by introducing national infrastructure pipeline and supplementing it with a 100% tax exemption grant, center aims to refuel the private sector investment. Now government has allocated, no need to mention this amount. Government has allocated sums, a huge sum for energy sector with an emphasis on solar power generation, augmenting it in such a way that it benefits the farmers. For our own towns to have clean air, the budget grants, you no need to mention this, budget has granted and advocated to close an old thermal power plants with carbon emission beyond permissible limits. The budget also lays stress on innovation in education, whether it's about implementing the innovative public-private partnership models for 5 new smart cities or utilizing the same for medical colleges and existing district hospitals. The intent is commendable. So this is what I would call, a very good Pressy. Only thing that I found was that the student mentioned facts from the passage. This was not required. If only he had omitted these numbers from the passage, right, it would have been a perfect Pressy, guys. So, some students make some mistakes, others make other mistakes. So now we learn from the mistakes what others do, and we have to understand the real meaning of making a Pressy. Got it, guys? Okay, I missed it, Ankit. No. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed it. No, you cannot use two titles using or Shiva. Don't be very, there's word limit. So the title will be counted in your word limit. Please note that down, Shiva. Okay, and everyone else. Don't use anything, Shiva. Just keep it. Budget is all about figures, I know, Shiva, but Pressy is not about figures. Pressy is about intent. Whatever the author has tried to convey, that was to be conveyed in the Pressy. That the budget highlights the intent, government's intent to to make this economy into a 5 trillion economy. Right. For this, the budget has included this benefit, this change, this reform, this changes. So all that has to be discussed, but without the facts. Got it? Absolutely. You don't have to actually mention fact 1.3 trillion. Just make it nearly a trillion. So nearly a trillion. So that would be enough. So don't mention, just only remove the facts from this Pressy. Otherwise, this is a perfect Pressy, guys, if I could tell you. Got it? I'm biased. I'm not biased, यार. इतने सारे एक आधा मिस हो जाता है यार. I'm not biased. Please, why would I be biased? I don't even know you, yaar, Ankit. Please don't do that. Okay. I try to read all the messages that I see, but एक आध कुछ मिस हो जाते हैं. So I apologize for that. Data will have to be written only if it affect the meaning of the passage. Yes, Pui, only if it is utmost important, like 5 trillion economy, that was important, you could not miss that. But you could have omitted 26.98 trillion and 22,000 crore, and you could just, heavy investment. So just use heavy investment has been put into. So just use heavy investment, a lot of money, financial support, use these words. So that's what I would call a good Pressy. So Pranay, 20 minutes for essay, then next 10 minutes for reading the passage, then next 10 minutes for 7 to 8 minutes for your Pressy, give or take, and then rest 20 to 23 minutes for your reading comprehension. Or if you are good at reading, if you have good reading speed, then, and if you have understood how to write proper essay, then 17 to 18 minutes for essay, 7 to 8 minutes for reading the passage, then 10 to 12 minutes for your Pressy, and then rest 23 to 25 minutes for your reading comprehension. So that's give or take, right? There'll be only one passage. I don't think there'll be two passages, Bhavna, because it will be very difficult for you to read two passages, then make one Pressy, then write 5 reading comprehension answers, and then also write an essay. So whatever author talks about, that has to be conveyed by you in your own words. Got it, guys? So guys, do you have any further doubts or any further queries? Guys, do you want to try one more Pressy, one more passage and one more Pressy, or is it enough? Yes, guys. What do you say? नहीं, the author talks about ऐसे start नहीं कर सकते पुष्कर. You have to write in your own words, your understanding of the passage. So if I read this Pressy, I would actually understand whatever was given in the passage has been mentioned here. But guys, please make sure that you do not follow the sequence. Do not follow the sequence of the passage. Please make sure, do not include facts and data. These are two important key points to remember. Word limit for essay would be 250 words, Shailesh. Yes, one more? Nothing is enough. All right, let's go to one more then. All right. Let's see how to convert such a big passage into a short Pressy. All right, let's read it, guys. And I'll read it out for you. There is no social security for children belonging to the poor and weaker sections of the society. There is no social security for children belonging to the poor and weaker sections of the society. They are subject to various types of abuse and exploitation. Their parents cannot afford to send them to schools or allow them to play. They are forced to work in mills, factories, houses, fields, farms, in establishments, and for long hours in trying and unhealthy conditions. Right? So, forced to work in factories, farms, establishments in unhealthy conditions. They work as laborers in match, knitwear, silk, carpet, sports goods, construction, fireworks, and in industries, etc. They are engaged as bid rollers, brick kiln workers, and other domestic helps against their wishes and abilities. Between 70 to 90 million children in India are employed in various sectors of industry and labor. Right? The present Child Labor Act covers only the 15% of the employed children, and the rest, comprising 85% working in unorganized sector, have been ignored. There is no social awareness, no social accountability. And in spite of the promulgation of Child Labor Act 10 years back, no case has been ever registered. Labor is being exploited openly and bluntly in India and other Asian countries in industries and other sectors. There is no effective forum to protect their rights and expose their exploitation. Obviously, the International Code of Conduct on Minimum Labor Standards is not being implemented in the developing countries. In Pakistan, Iqbal Masiha, a very young person, was shot dead because of championed the cause of the children and campaigned against child labor. Every human being under 18 years of age, unless under the law applicable to the child, majority is attained earlier, is a child. According to the Convention of the Rights of the Child of 1990, every child has the right to an adequate standard of living and social security. He or she has the right to education, which states making primary education compulsory and free. Children have the right to protection from economic exploitation with a minimum age for admission to employment. They are entitled to protection from involvement in the illicit production, trafficking and use of narcotic drugs, protection from sexual exploitation and abuse. But these rights are only on paper and the reality is very shocking. They have no opportunity for going to school and develop their potentials. It is estimated that half of the population of children in India is outside schools. That's a dire number. All right, reading ahead. Without provisions of universal, free and compulsory education, elimination of child labor is almost impossible. The emancipator value of education, especially primary education, is very significant, as can be seen in the case of Kerala. Movements campaigning against child labor should direct their attention to the urgent need of free, compulsory and universal education for children. They should pressurize the center and the state governments to implement the scheme of universal, free and compulsory primary education at the earliest. Social groups, voluntary organizations and reform societies should create public awareness against child labor and making the masses demand free primary education. The problem of child labor is directly linked with the problem of poverty. Unless there is significant improvement in the quality of life and living standards, the elimination of child labor will remain a pipe dream. Poor families cannot afford to let their children not to work. It is a very disturbing situation. Children are the agents of transformation. Play, education and good health are children are denied these facilities and they are made to work instead. Social boycott of goods produced with child labor can be one of the effective weapons to fight against social evils. I think ये काम कुछ बीच में missing हो गया शायद. Right. Now, promotion of child rights presupposes economic well-being of the people. Removal of children from employment means loss of jobs, which may drive vulnerable children into more dangerous and degrading jobs. Thus, the problem is not so simple as it sometimes appears to be. Therefore, all its dimensions and implications should be taken into thorough consideration and only then remedial measures taken. Children should be rescued, their rights promoted, and their voice heard. But this cannot be done effectively unless there is economic freedom and industrial growth. Child labor was a common thing a few decades ago in the nations that today are developed and advanced. During the Industrial Revolution of 18th to 19th centuries, child labor was a common thing in Europe. Small children were often stolen and abducted and forced to become chimney sweeps. They eradicated the evils as soon as they grew rich and industrially powerful. For India, also elimination of child labor is ultimately linked with economic development and growth in industrial and agricultural sectors. In India, over 36% people suffer from poverty. In human development, India ranks 138 among 175 developing countries. In human poverty index, based on the percentage of people dying before the age of 40, adult illiteracy and percentage of people without access to potable water, health services and underweight children under 5, India stands 47th among 78 developing nations. The percentage of people living below poverty line has increased from 36% in 1991 to 43% in 1992 in rural areas. To eradicate poverty and the resultant child labor, India needs to invest on a massive scale in education, adult employment and industrialization. Education, adult employment and industrialization. Right. It is imperative that there is a free, compulsory and universal primary education in the country by the turn of the century. Till appalling poverty persists and social insecurity prevails, child labor cannot be checked, let alone its eradication. In May 1997, to mark the 50th year of independence, the Union government decided to make elementary education to children in the age group of 6 to 14 age group a fundamental right. The constitution is proposed to be amended for the purpose. There is a step in right direction in respect of elimination of child labor, but it is to be seen when and how this scheme is implemented. The government's ad hocism and tokenism sometimes make people skeptic about its policies and programs and their timely implementation. The scheme of universal education in the country has still miles to go. The problem is compounded by the high incidence of dropouts from school system, and one of the major reasons is child labor. Children are required to work in fields and farms, on shops and in factories to eke out a living. अब इसको कैसे 150 वर्ड्स में देखा बहुत ज़्यादा डेटा था ना कन्वर्ट करने के लिए, लेकिन अगर आपको 150 छोड़ो मैं 100 वर्ड्स का इसका प्रेसी दिखाता हूँ. बहुत बड़ा टाइटल है जलपिन, थोड़ा छोटा करना है. Child labor, a menace for India, something like this. Yes, guys, what title would you provide to this passage? Say no to child labor. This is a title for a protest, Gokul. This is not a title for this passage. The worst and worst of child labor. Very good, Shanki. A dark reality. Very good, Shruti. Hazardous burden. Very good, Mudassir. Eradication and its evil. All right. Very good, Nikhil. Child labor and social security. Right, Bhavna. Quite apt. Yes, guys. Child labor and ignored problem. Very good. Child labor compounding exploitation. Very good, Asmita. Very well sought. Child labor possible solution through education. Don't give the title, don't try to put everything. Just give a subtle title, Piyush. Child labor, loss of childhood. Loss of childhood, not lost, loss of childhood, Mansi. The harsh truth. Very good, Suraj. Poor implementation of Child Labor Act. Pranay, that was, very out of the focus. A living nightmare. Very good, Anim. Do focus on the criticality of the situation. A menace for India. Very good, Vitara. A curse for childhood. Very good, Shiva. Child labor, not lost of childhood, loss of childhood, Mansi. Its repercussions and effect on family. Too long, Jalpin. Okay, let's look at और अभी तो और भी है ये, अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है, देख लो. The liberalization of Indian economy will also go a long way in alleviating poverty by creating more job opportunities for the adults, and thus the child labor will automatically get reduced. If poverty is reduced significantly, the problem of child labor may take care of itself. Liberalization creates opportunities at the bottom as well as near the top levels of society. The recent World Bank report has said that since the process of liberalization in India began a few years ago, the wages of landless rural workers have improved remarkably. The reforms in India started in 1991 and hold the promise of considerable improvements in the living standards of the country's 3 million poor, and the report avers. Now, international organizations want to help India to solve the problem, but their attempt to connect it to trade is undesirable. The problem cannot be solved overnight, but concrete steps should be taken immediately. The provision of the present Child Labor Act should also be suitably amended to bring about a cognizable offence. The penalty in such cases should be made more stringent and deterrent. Burden of proof of age of the child should be the employer should be borne by the employer, and the names of the defaulting establishment should be furnished to law courts and law enforcement authorities. The Common Minimum Program of the UF government, announced in June 1996, has referred to step to be taken to total elimination of child labor in all industries, in all occupations, and in all forms. I think it should be US government, not UF government. But there is often found a big gap between good intentions and their timely implementation. Even the survival of the UF government, ये UF government क्या है यार? अच्छा, United Forces है क्या? Is often in doubt. I don't know. Let's read the Pressy, guys. Let's look at such a short Pressy. Now let's see if he has given everything in this. Child labor, that was the title. About 70 to 90 million children are employed in various industries in very trying conditions. Children are being exploited as laborers both by organized and unorganized sectors of industry. The rights of the children are being abused, especially in developing countries. Child labor cannot be eliminated unless there is free, universal, and compulsory primary education. Poor parents cannot afford to send their children to school. The problem is multidimensional and needs matching approach and solutions. Employment of child should be made a cognizable offense, and there should be more deterrents and stringent penalties. So he has tried to cover everything within, I think, below 100 words. There were a few more important points that could have been added here, but this is something how you frame a Pressy, guys. इतना लंबा नहीं आएगा, but अगर आ जाता है शिवा, तो क्या करना चाहिए आपको? ये तो I'm just trying to tell you how the way to go about it, right? So a bit more, a bit more stress could have been put on the critical situation of the children in the country. That could have been added. A couple of more sentences could have been added into this Pressy. I know it's too short. Bhavna, you can do like this, but don't fall very far short of the word limit. I told you, you should stay between 135 to 150. That's how you do it, Pressy. That's Piyush. That's what you have to do. Yes, some points have could have been included in this, but otherwise it was a very good Pressy. Nikhil, what he wrote was very well. I mean that is commendable here. But that I feel that yes, it could have been. A few more sentences should have been added into it. यस पुई पुई खोदा नगार पहाड़ निकला चाहिए हमने पढ़ लिया आपका कर्स फॉर या कर्स टू चाइल्डहुड कर्स टू चाइल्डहुड शिवा कर्स टू चाइल्डहुड नॉट कर्स फॉर चाइल्डहुड all right guys, so I hope you've understood what Pressy making is all about, right? All right guys, now we have come to the end of our session. Guys, if you have any doubts, you can contact us on this number 8146207241, or you can also drop an email at hello@edutap.co.in if you have any doubts. Yes guys, so yes guys, if you have any doubts, please ask. And otherwise, I hope you have understood the difference between a summary and a Pressy, how to frame a Pressy in your own words, omit data, omit facts, and do not exceed the word limit, do not follow the sequence of the passage, and keep it organized like a concise brief. Got it? I told you, Piyush, it is impressive, precise, and almost complete. Could have a few more sentences could have been added to it. I know, Pui Pui, that is what you need to do. English section सही हो जाएगा दीपक, just go on practicing. Absolutely, Shiva. So guys, how was the session? Please do let me know. अभी छोड़ के मत जाओ यार, एकदम से ऐसे नहीं आएगा, फ्री का माल है यार, बहुत मेहनत लगती है यार, 2 घंटे 1.5 घंटा बोलने में और उससे पहले ये सब तैयार करने में भी. So अगर आपको अच्छा लगा तो do like the session, do share it with your friends or colleagues or whosoever it may help. And do let me know guys, how did you find this session, if it was beneficial for you. There will be a word counter, Solanki. So you don't need to count anything. There will be a word counter on the screen and it will tell you how many words you have already written. Thank you, Piyush. That was the intent. There's no need to show the para of, the flavor of every paragraph, Nikhil. But it does not need to be in the logical order as well. But key points should be mentioned. So it should be an abstract of the passage. Right? Yes, सभी में होगा सोलंकी, भावना, वर्ड काउंटर होगा वहां पे. Okay? हो जाएगा पूरी पूरी, डोंट वरी. थैंक यू बिटारा, थैंक यू सो मच. आरजे बन जाऊं बिटारा मैं? व्हाट डू यू से? Tomorrow time 9 p.m. again, same time guys, and tomorrow we'll be taking up reading comprehension. Sequence to solve. What sequence, Pushkar? Are you asking about sequence of the questions or sequence of the paragraphs? Yes, only 250 words for essay, Mansi. Thank you, Jalpin. Thank you, Musafir. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Amin. Thank you, Mansi, Suraj. Descriptive sequence. Sequence should be, I think you should start with the passage because it holds the most weightage. So start with reading the questions first, then go for reading the passage, then make a Pressy first, then reading comprehension answers, and then rest of the time go for your essay. Absolutely, Gokul, you will definitely here. Amansi, it will be mentioned maximum 400, minimum 200. That's not how it will be mentioned, Mui. You will be given specific word limit, either 250 or 300 or 350 or 275 or whatever. You will be given a specific word limit. You won't be asked to write between 200 to 400. That's very vague. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Shashank. Thank you, Shanky. Absolutely, Nikhil. Who says it's not possible to score more than 75? It's absolutely possible, right? So, guys, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for being so patient, and thank you so much for being so receptive, guys. What passage? पैसेज तो आपको मिलेगा, आप उसका टेंस थोड़ी डिसाइड करोगे जर्पन. Thank you, Saresh. Thank you so much, guys. Guys, I wish you all the very best. Keep on working hard. So from tomorrow onwards, in the morning, take up the newspaper, find an editorial, read it, and as you go, keep on underlining the important points. And after you've read the passage, think of the central theme, then draft a Pressy on your computer. And do this at least once or twice every day. Because if you still have not practiced it, I think, 5, 6, 7 Pressys will get you into the groove. All right. All right, Deepak, thank you so much. So guys, let's call it a day. And I hope this session will prove helpful to you. So thank you so much, guys. अरे होमवर्क भूलना नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं भूलेंगे मानसी. Thank you so much. ठीक है. So guys, take care. Have a good night and happy learning to all of you guys. Bye bye. Good night.